Hello, and welcome to episode 80 of Toward a Better Life. This is your host, Kevin Pennell. Think of me as your guide while we travel together along this road, creating more fulfilling, rewarding, and healthier lives together. You're not going to need much for this trek, just an open mind, spirit, and heart. Toward a Better Life podcast features like-minded people sharing their stories, ideas, and activities on what can be done to generate a better life individually and collectively. Larry Bilotta joins me on this episode. He talks about the chaos kid factor, that mysterious cause of divorce. This same chaos kid may even impact other facets of our adult life. Then factor in our subconscious when out of control. When our subconscious mind couples with the chaos kid, the path to happiness can become blocked. After enduring 27 years in a loveless marriage, Larry discovered a breakthrough that changed his life and transformed his relationship, as well through overcoming the chaos kid and guiding his subconscious. Larry has helped tens of thousands of people save their sanity, marriages, and regain control over their lives and mindset for over 20 years. Now he's here to share what can be done to create happiness in your relationship and your life. A path to happiness is the focus of our discussion on this episode of Toward a Better Life with Larry Bilotta. Larry, I welcome you to Toward a Better Life. How are you doing?
Thank you, Kevin. What a good idea, the better life.
Yeah, that's something we all could strive for, isn't it?
Yes, so we want to get to a better life.
Yeah.
So in my effort to get to a better life, I married the toughest, roughest woman in the world for 40 years.
Oh.
And she was my teacher. And the reason she was my teacher is because, I go around talking to people about the idea of the way they were raised, the way they grew up. And I learned that really from being married to her, because we were both programmed by parents who believed in stay married and stay miserable. And so because we both believed in that, we couldn't leave the value system that we had, stay married and stay miserable. So we could fight like cats and dogs, but it didn't matter. We had to stay married and stay miserable. So that's what kept us together. So what I discovered is that we're raised in those first 10 years, and all the brain scientists figured this out, the quantum physicists, that all those neurons are forming. And when all those neurons are forming in the brain, those are 10 years of all of the messages coming into childhood are all the values that you ever had, or no values. And so however it comes in, and if you end up with some form of abandonment, emotional or physical, some form of abuse, emotional or physical, or some form of neglect, emotional or physical, that makes you a chaos kid. So my scale is 10-9-8, which is purpose, the purpose side of the scale. And that 10-9-8 is where you have values and the parents stay together and they teach you. And that's purpose. And then 7-6-5 is the twilight zone. And that's where the parents don't really raise you. You got to kind of raise yourself. And so those people are in the middle. And then down 5 down to 0 is the chaos world. And that's where the more abandonment, the more abuse, the more neglect, the further you go down the scale. So I talk to people. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been asking people about where you were raised, where she was raised. And so whether I'm talking to women or to men, I'm always finding about the two partners. And so I always see people as where they are on the scale. So it's a 10 married to a 2, or it's a 9 married to a 1. So there's always a separation. Somebody's raised high, somebody's raised low. And so the person who's raised low, I call the leaver. And the reason I call them the leaver is because they have in their subconscious the message that if you don't like the relationship, just leave. And so because they have this leaver message, they can't really change it because they don't know anything about it. They don't know what's in the subconscious. And so that message is there. And so what happens is when they start falling apart in their relationship, the message turns on. Can't fix a relationship, you just leave it. So that person's called the leaver. And so I talked to a lot of stayers. That's who talks to me, stayers. And the leavers leave. So I don't talk to them. Right? So I'm talking to stayers about leavers. And so that's where I really learned about Chaos Kids. I learned about Chaos Kids from all those people I've been talking to all these years. And so the Chaos Kids are chaotic, and that abandonment is very hard on them because they have this "I will abandon you before you abandon me." That's in there. Or if they're still living in abandonment, I've got to watch you and monitor you and not trust you because you'll abandon me. And so that's abandonment. Abuse and neglect, those two they're abused emotionally or physically, they're neglected emotionally and physically, and that creates another layer of piles of chaos. And so the things that happen in the marriage, uh, because that's the intimate relationship. That's the place where everything could go wrong, because you have work relationships, you have social relationships, and then you've got the intimate relationship, and that's the one that's the most delicate, that's the most fragile, that's the most where you're easily going to see what's happening to you, because what happens, what a chaos kid does is a chaos kid tests you. And so my wife, Marcia, she was raised in an angry home. I was raised in a kind of a shutdown home where you don't talk to each other about your feelings. And so that's the place I grew up in. So when we got together, we got locked into this stay married, stay miserable. And she was very angry, and I was very shut down, and nothing was working. And so that was a very, very hard life. But that's where I learned all this stuff. I learned it from my 40 years of Marcia. So I tell this 27 years of marriage made in hell because that's what happened. It was 27 years. So it started when they impeached Nixon, and it ended when they elected the second Bush. That's how long that was. So that's really what happened is what I was doing in that 27 years is I was learning that I didn't love myself. I didn't feel good about myself. And because I didn't feel good about myself, she could feel that. And she treated me the way I was feeling. That's why they talk about you teach people how to treat you. Well, what they're saying is you have a feeling about yourself that's going out to the person, and that person's mirroring it back to you. And so that's what the mirror idea that they always talk about. And so she was mirroring back to me what I had to see. And what I saw is I did not like who I was. And so what she was is she was my teacher in so many ways. So one of the things I didn't know is she wanted me to be accountable, reliable, and dependable. And I was none of those things. So that was part of my learning. And so what I learned about was Chaos Kids. And what I started to discover as I interviewed more and more people is they didn't ever hear about Chaos Kids. They never heard that childhood makes the marriage. Never. I said, never? Not one time in any form? Have you ever read a book or something? So a lot of people I talk to don't read. And
No.
so, right. And so I'm talking to them for the first time, telling them about your childhood makes your marriage. Whatever happens in the first 10 years, that's the kind of marriage you're going to have. And so I'm verifying that over and over and over again as people tell me the stories of their childhood. So I asked, tell me the story of your dad. What was your relationship with your dad like? And while your dad was being this way, what was your mom being like? And so I'll hear stories of great stable dad, volatile, angry mother, and then the mother treated the dad very badly because she was very unhappy. And so these patterns are pretty easy to see, that when you grow up in chaos, whatever happened to you, that's what you're going to do in your marriage. And so when you finally realize that that's a thing that actually happens, that your brain is built around those first 10 years, you can find this out before you marry a person. You can find out if they're a chaos kid. You can ask the question, so tell me about your mom and dad. How much do you credit to your mom and dad for all the things that you've learned? And when people can't answer that, they know something's wrong. And so they can't say, I know what my mom and dad did. They were very troubled. They were very upset. Or my mother was, or my father was, very angry, or whatever their thing is. And so that's the chaos kid. And so when you marry a person, you don't really know what the childhood means. And that's really the thing I end up focusing on. The meaning of what happened is the most important thing to learn. What does it mean that your husband was the father of an army general, and he moved a lot. And you were in 10 different schools. What does that mean? What does it mean that your mother was on depression and she was medicated and she was put into a mental hospital? What does that mean? Right? So all these things, the meaning is what happens to people, because that's how they're living. They're living on the meaning. And so that's really where chaos is. It's happening in the meaning, where meaning is created. And once you have a meaning that's very difficult, very hard, very confused, very lonely, very abandoned, whatever those meanings are, that's what you end up with. And that's how your life is, because you're living on meaning. And so I have this thing I teach called the meaning and movie machine. So what happens is the meaning turns on. Once you have a meaning, it creates a movie. And the movie is what you have in your imagination. So you have a meaning and movie machine. And so when the meaning and movie machine starts and starts running with the meaning in the movie, that's what you're living on. You're living in that emotional makeup. So I've had people who don't talk to each other. They don't talk to each other because the woman doesn't talk, because she's just too shut down from her childhood. And so she has a meaning and movie machine that says when something gets a little testy, when something gets a little misunderstandable, you can't talk. You can't say anything, because you're going to be, the more you talk, the more danger you're in. And so they shut down and they don't talk. And so I see that over and over again, where a talker marries a person who can't talk. And they can't talk about emotional things. That's what they really can't talk about. They can't talk about emotional things. And so I just got off the phone with a guy who's married to a woman, can't talk about emotional things. Again and again, I keep hearing them. So the whole idea of getting married is getting married with your eyes open. And that's very hard to do when you're in love. Because when you're in love, the oxytocin and the dopamine and the endorphins are all turning on, and they wipe out your memory. And so now you don't even know how to connect. This means that, and that's connected to this. You don't have those connections. And so when you're in love, those connections are disappearing. And so all you can see is this person in front of you. And all you can see is not the chaos of that person. All you can see is their charisma. And I'll tell you, Kevin, those people that are chaos kids, they're very charismatic people. They have charisma. They're very likable. They're very charming. They're very friendly. They're very warm. And when you meet them, you think, wow, this person is like that all the time. No, they're not. So the midlife crisis is a thing that people are very confused about, because professionals talk about midlife crisis from it doesn't exist to it does exist, and it's a time of rediscovery, and you're in your right mind. And so all kinds of things are split. People don't know what a midlife crisis is. But what I found in my experience is all the people I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot of people over the years, a midlife crisis is when your childhood messages that are stored in your subconscious come up. And what happens is a person is called a bucker when they fight those programs, when they fight the messages of the subconscious. They're fighting again. They go through a 3-step process. And the first step is, no, I'm not doing that. And so that's when the message comes and they stop it. The second step is, I'm going to do this instead. Now they have to borrow a value from something else and do that instead. And then the third thing is they have to act it out. And so while they're acting it out, the message is still pressing. And so this is a pressure thing where they're fighting their subconscious. And it's a very hard thing to do. And what happens to buckers after a lot of years, 15, 20, 30 years, they break. They can't do it anymore. They can't fight anymore. And so once they do that, they just okay. So what happens then is, if they didn't smoke, they smoke.
Mm-hmm.
If they were religious, they're not religious. If they were whatever switch they're going to do, they make a big switch. And so the people that I talk to that are married to these people, they see a massive change of their personality. And like, what is this? Like this completely different value. How could you? He never said that. He never did that. She never did that. Right? He's always a good mother. Right? So they're shocked at the switch that it could happen that fast. But that's what happens to buckers. They snap, and when they snap, nobody understands.
So they buck the system. They're bucking themselves.
That's right. They're bucking their subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so by bucking the subconscious mind with willpower, which is what buckers do. They do it with willpower. They're not using mindfulness or meditation or prayer. They're not doing that. What they're doing is, no, I'm not doing that. And so they're literally forcefully pushing away the messages of the subconscious. And so I've done this for a long time. I call it my main message. And what I'm looking for is the most painful message of childhood. And so the most painful message of childhood is a very simple line, and I have to dig to find it. And when I find it, it's always some kind of denial, some kind of thing of like, you can't have my love. It's very conditional. That's the most painful message. What happens in the first 10 years. And so that message becomes a theme that lives your whole life, and it just comes out in all kinds of ways because the subconscious is going to get out somehow. It's going to come out in very subtle ways, but we're not going to see it. So that's what I discovered about what a chaos kid is. I coined that term chaos kid because that's exactly how they live. They live as a chaos child. That, because there's an inner child down there. Well, that inner child is suffering in this painful moment, and they don't live in time. They don't even know how old you are. Well, I'm 72. No, you're not. You're 6. You're just like me. No, you don't know that.
So there's several things that I'm hearing, and I think if we look at them, like I think one of the first things you mentioned about it has to do with our culture, it has to do with maybe the generation, but it's the old thing, we're going to stay together if it kills us.
Yeah.
And it can be staying together for several different reasons. Maybe the reason I'm going to stay together because my parents got divorced. So I'm going to prove my parents wrong and I'm going to stay together. And it could be the worst decision of my life.
Yes.
Or it could be the best. It depends on how you look at it. So without going any further on some of the other things that I'm looking at, how do you determine if the best thing to do is stay together and stick it out versus how do you determine that, nope, the best thing to do is not stay together? So let's do one at a time. What's the decision that would say, no, let's stay together. We can do this.
Okay. So there are people, when I ask the question, do you love this woman? That's the question I ask a lot. Do you love this woman? Do you love this man? And when I ask that question, if I get any kind of oh yeah, just like kind of a hesitant answer, I know there's not enough strength there, not enough commitment there, not enough staying with it to go the long haul. And because they don't have that desire to stay with it through the difficulty, they're going to give up. They're going to give up. They're going to quit. And so they don't have the love that they need to stay with it long haul. But then I've heard like, oh my God, this is my life. This is the woman I need. This is right. This is the woman that's my best friend, and all those phrases that they use. And I say they use because I'm looking up these people as a group, and I hear their phrases over and over again. So these people are very committed, and they love their chaos kid. Doesn't matter that they're chaos kids. It's like I want to write a book, Chaos Kids and the Men Who Love Them, Chaos Kids and the Women Who Love Them, because they really do love them, and they don't see the chaos. They don't that they're troubled by it, they're tormented by it, but they want them to leave that chaos. And what they all tell me is, I still see her in there. I still see him in there. I still see that person I knew. And so that's what they want. And so in order for you to leave the place of where the switch has been made, the chaos turned on, you as a stayer, the person who's staying, has to stay, and you have to get it from your wrong mind and get into your right mind. You have to leave the wrong mind, get in the right mind. What is the wrong mind? The wrong mind is every word we have in the English language that is negative, like doubt, fear, worry, hurt, anger, etc. All those words you can look up on the internet, and the words you look them up, and the definition's terrible. And then we have the right-minded thoughts, and those are all the thoughts in the English language, like hope, kindness, love, generosity, beauty, thankfulness, encouragement. All those words are you look those definitions up, and they're all wonderful. So that's the right mind. So we want to move to the right mind, and we want to leave the wrong mind. Well, the job of doing that is a job of having people who will help you move in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what I ended up doing. I ended up creating a course that really is helping people get out of their wrong mind and get into the right mind. And so that's really what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to get into the right mind somehow. And we all have different ways of doing it with our own unique versions of how we're living. But that's really what the job is. The job is to get there. Because when you're moving into your right mind, what happens is you're giving off an energy all the time. Energies are like my mood, my attitude, my frequencies, my vibrations. All these things are going out. And since they're going out, you don't actually steer them and control them. They're a broadcast, just like a radio station. It's going out everywhere. And because it's going out everywhere, the person who's closest to you gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And they get the feeling and they feel it. And so
Mm-hmm.
what happens, they start to feel you change from wrong mind to right mind. And when you're in your right mind more often, they start going, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You're not like this. And that's where they start. And then they keep on seeing you moving to the right mind more and more and more and more. And as they start to see it, they start to go, wait, this isn't going away. This isn't disappearing. Like, and then eventually when they get down to the other side, it's, I want to be like you. And that's really the best thing that this person can become. This person who is a stayer is really staying to become a creator. They're creating the new ideas of feeling calm and secure and safe and important and valuable and likable. All those kinds of energies are starting to feel really good to this person who is a reactor. They're reacting to everything and anything. And so since they're a reactor, that's a really good thing. All you need to do now is, if you're married to this chaos kid, is you need to become a creator. You create and the reactor reacts. And that's a good system right there. But what you don't want is two reactors reacting to each other. And that's what you don't want. You know, two reactors are bad.
Yeah.
A creator and a reactor, that's good.
So a couple of things that I'm hearing as well. First off, if one or the other really does feel committed to this and they really want to try to make this work, and they recognize that they do love that person, they do care for that person. When I say the love, it goes beyond the physical. It goes beyond intimacy. It just
Yes.
means my life is great with this person.
Yeah.
And it's not like I can't remember the term right offhand, but it's not like I've got to have this person in my life, otherwise I'm going to fall apart.
Because they do
That's
something for me. Yes.
right,
Because they do
right.
something for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the same thing.
Right.
It's real commitment and real sense of this person is just part of me. Yes, I maintain myself. Yes, I maintain my personal power. Yes, I maintain all the good stuff, the meditation, what have you, but they're a needful part of my life because it's who I care for. It's who I want to be with me. It's who I want to share everything with. And then the other piece that I'm hearing is the important part is whether or not there is communication that still is involved in that relationship. Because if there's no communication, what's the point? You know, so
Well, this is an important point when you talk about communicating, because what's happening with those seven invisible energies? The seven invisible energies are my mood, my attitude, my sensitivity, my feelings, my energy, my vibrations, my frequencies. Those are all going out. We can't monitor them. We can't see them going out. This is like that broadcast that's always going out. And so when you think about that, what is really going to happen if I was a reactor, just like the person I married, but now I'm going to become a creator. I'm going to move out of my wrong mind. I'm going to move into my right mind. And what's going to happen? Eventually, this person's going to start to sense you're a part of my solution. The chaos kid's going to say, oh, so you actually know how to get out of here? Out of this hellhole, right? This place that I was born into that I don't understand. You're actually going to help me get out because I want to be like you becomes where you take them. And so the whole idea that a person that you're committed to and married to and love can change from a reactor to a creator like yourself is a really inspiring idea.
yeah,
And so when somebody can catch that idea, like, wait, I could become what I want this person to become. I could become what I want my husband to be. I could become what I want my wife to be.
Mm.
Oh, okay. There's something in me that says that's what I want. And
Mm-hmm.
when you have that, that's what I want. That's when you're ready to learn this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're ready to help the chaos kid get out of this chaos. And it's not a clean, perfect system. It's a sloppy, messy thing. It's erratic. It's like good days and bad days for a long time. And you got to keep that compass of focused on what am I really doing here? I'm trying to move into my right mind. I'm trying to move into all the words of the English languages that are good. I'm trying to leave all the words in the English languages that are bad. It's a very simple idea.
Mm.
Oh, okay. And so what's stopping us? What's stopping us is the rat. And so I have an analogy. And the
Okay.
analogy is the rat. I call it the rat.
What's the rat?
The rat is your, in the analogy, you're a cruise ship. And on your cruise ship, you have a rat on the bottom of your ship you don't know is there. And then you marry a person who's a second cruise ship, and they have a rat in the bottom of their ship that's you don't know is there. And so these two rats have radios, and they're sending a message back and forth called against energy. And this against energy is so severe that it's pushing the ships apart that the rats are on. And now the ships don't know why they're separated because they don't know they have these rats. So you go to a seminar and you find out that you might have a rat. So you go through the time and trouble to get the rat off the ship. And once you do that, you now have two ships, but only one rat. That's really big because one rat does not have the power to push two ships. It takes two rats to push two ships, not one rat.
Mm.
Okay, so what is the rat in the analogy? The rat is the messages of your childhood that are painful and hard and really stick to you. And really, it's like that inner child is still wounded and still destroyed by those messages. And so that's the rat. So if you're raised at a 10 or a 9 or an 8, you've got a very small rat. And
Mm.
now the rat can make you worry, can make you anxious, it can make you fearful, and those kinds of things. But when you're raised at a 2 or a 1 or a 0, your rat is really bad because it's very mean to you, it's mean to others, and now you have this problem about very graphic rat activity, right? So whether you're a person with a rat at 10, a person with a rat at 1, it doesn't matter. You still got to get rid of the rat. But one person is the weakest person. That person typically is not going to do it. The job of the strongest emotional person, that's the person that can actually remove the rat. And so that's really what the job is. The job is getting in the right mind and removing the rat off your ship. Because when you remove the rat off your ship, the separation slows down. And I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen over and over again when one person gets that rat off their ship, that tension, that arguing, that ugliness that we call behavior or energy, it just starts to slow down. And now there's not two rats pushing, there's only one rat pushing.
Okay, so when we look at the rat, someone who grows up in a chaos-centered family, this
Uh-huh.
is the child that sees this. And it can be either side. It can be the mom who is just not comfortable with who she is, and the dad says, I got to give her something to do, so he sends her off to, say, some kind of a school or something. So, and it's part of that generation. You can see it. I'm talking about the kids who were raised in the 50s and 60s,
Okay.
and you had that single breadwinner mentality. And so I've got to give her something to do. She's driving me crazy.
Yes,
you know
that's right. Yeah.
and maybe that rat now is coming with me as I grow up, and what I see is chaos. That was a normal relationship
That's
to
right.
me. So is that kind of a that's where I'm going with this idea of a rat. Is that a good assumption?
So when we're talking about the rat, I use the rat as an analogy because the cruise ship and the rat give us a clear separation between the person, a cruise ship,
Hmm.
and the rat, the ego. And
Okay.
now we have a clear separation
Okay.
because, in general life, we don't have a clear separation. It's
Mm-mm.
not clear to see the difference between the person and the ego. So nothing good has been written about the ego ever. It's really got bad press, right? So I needed the analogy to help people through this. And so the idea that there's two rats on two ships, and then when one rat goes away, the only rat that's left is the rat you can't do anything about. You can't remove her rat or his rat. You can't do it, but you can remove your own. And so that's the first part of really being what I call an environment changer, a person who
So
changes the environment of their mind.
So the rat is something that the person with that rat within them, if you have those two people and you have the one who basically does away with the rat and the other person still has their rat, the other person has the ability on their own to get rid of their own rat. Is
Yes,
that
that's right.
okay?
That's right. So you can get rid of your own rat, but you can't get rid of somebody else's rat. So
Right.
that's the guideline.
Yeah, and that's a good guideline because there are a lot of fixers out there,
That's right.
right? And
Yes, there are.
you don't hire an exterminator to take care of the rat. It's one of those things that the actions do speak mightier than the words,
Yes,
and,
yes.
and if you are showing that you are more comfortable with that person because you've done away with the rat that's in your life, you know that that rat is there or was there, and it's a part of who you are or were, but it's there, but you've learned how to control it. You've learned how to deal with it, that it doesn't take up the space that it used to.
So you use the word control, but what the word actually is undo. You have to
Okay.
undo it. You have to undo it. You have to because do it. And when the ego is able to do what it does, it has to be undone. And
Okay.
so undone is really what our goal is, because we can't control that thing called the ego. We can't control the rat. What we
Mhm.
can is we can undo it. That's what we can do.
So undo its power over us.
Yes, that's right. So
That's it.
it had it. Now we're going to undo it. And so
Okay.
it's like taking away the power that it used to have.
Can you review again how you said in the beginning of our talk, we had a 10 to 8, and then you have a 7 to a 5 maybe,
Yes.
and can you break those down for me
Okay.
for us
So
one
here's
more time?
that's our chaos, our purpose of chaos scale. And purpose starts at 10 and it goes 10, 9, 8. And
Hmm.
whether you're a 10, a 9, or an 8 is determined by the parents' relationship. So if your mom and dad really loved each other and you saw it as a kid, that's a 10. If your mom and dad argued, that's a 9. If they argued a lot, that's an 8. But you're
Okay.
still at purpose because the parents are still teaching and talking, and they're
Uh-huh.
still giving you an example of what good values are. So
Okay.
10, 9, 8.
Hmm.
Then 7, 6, 5 is not chaos, it's the Twilight Zone. And it's the Twilight Zone after Rod Sterling's television show from the 50s, the Twilight Zone. So what the Twilight Zone is a place that's weird and strange because what you're trying to do is raise yourself because you're not getting instructions from them.
Okay.
They're not teaching, they're not talking. And so you have this Twilight Zone place. There's no chaos. Nobody's giving you any abandonment, abuse, and neglect. They're just giving you nothing. And now you got to just figure out what everything is. Then
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is chaos, abandonment, abuse, and neglect. So those three stack the cards against you and bring you lower and lower on the scale of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so
Okay.
that's the scale I use on the phone when I'm talking to people so they can understand, oh, okay, yeah, I think I'm an 8
Hmm.
because my parents did argue, uh,
Okay.
but they
I
stayed together.
I can see that. Now I can see it very clear, and I can see how powerful and how helpful that structure is to identify, even going back into the chaos kid. So the chaos kid, the one that's a real chaos kid, is the one who's coming from a family that is abusive, it's abandoning, it's the father or the mother that are on the road a lot. You don't have the cohesiveness of the relationship, and I'm going to check myself really quick that just because if mom or dad is on the road a lot, and if you're listening to this and that's your scenario, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not saying that it's bad to be on the road a lot because that's just the way we are nowadays.
Yeah,
To some families, I'm thinking of the cross country drivers. They can have a wonderful, they could be a 10 in their relationship because each person understands what they're supposed to be doing. But
yes,
this is the one who, on purpose, leaves the house,
yes,
for whatever reason it may be. So the childhood really does decide the state of our marriage. And I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes they'll say, where did that ever come from in your life? What made you that way? And it goes a lot deeper. And I know that you mentioned about the stuff of around age 1 to 10. I used to go by the stuff of age 1 or being born up until around 6, 7, or 8. But regardless, we're looking at what we would refer to as the formative years. It makes us who we are. And
Yes.
what we see, what we experience, we're going to carry with us as adults. And
Yes.
that's where you try to work through with to help
So
people.
what's really strange that this idea of childhood makes your marriage is not, it's not popular, it's not normal. It's in all the movies, it's in all the television shows, it's always being talked about, but nobody really gels it as an idea that's very simple to understand. Childhood makes the marriage. But how could that be? It's so long ago. And
Mm,
so what I teach you, I always talk about quantum physics, and quantum physics tells us that there is no time. It's
hmm
all right here, right now. So
hmm
there is no stretch of time long ago.
Yes.
It's all right here, right now. And so when you think it's all right here, right now, that means I'm a child right here, right now. I'm 6 years old right here, right now. I'm having those experiences right here, right now. And so that's why it's all right here, right now. And so when you get rid of the idea of time, now it could be very easy to be a chaos kid right here, right now,
hmm
and not know how to undo the ego that makes all this chaos stay in place. Because that's really what we're trying to do. Look at the growth of mindfulness as a way to learn. Mindfulness is something that is now being talked about in what seems to be like mainstream channels, like medicine. Woo, medicine. They bought into mindfulness? Yes, they did. And you start to see people coming out of medicine that are teaching mindfulness, like, wow, it's gone mainstream now. But I've had people, I say, have you read any self-help books? Any, like, no, no. Ever heard of meditation, mindfulness, prayer? No, no. The closest I can get to is I had an aunt who used to tell me to pray, but no one else. So no learning at all. Why I want to do these podcasts like on your show is because I'm always trying to get the idea of that childhood makes the marriage, and this is how it happens. And because I didn't know I married a casket, nobody I've ever talked to, and I've talked to thousands of people, they don't know that the childhood makes the marriage.
Are there more chaos kids out there than we think?
I think it's probably 75% of the world is chaos kids. Some form of abandonment, some form of abuse, some form of 75%. That's what it feels like to me after talking to all these people.
And is there any relationship between that and concept of transactional analysis?
Um, Transactional analysis was very helpful. When did it come up in the 60s?
Yeah, I
Transactional
think
analysis?
so. I remember
Yeah,
having it as required reading in my psychology class in
yeah,
college.
yeah, yeah. But it was a really big thing. It had its time. I think there's still a sound idea there, and I think more authors have taken it and morphed it into other things.
hmm
But I think it is still connected, uh, but I don't think it's anywhere near as strong as ideas that like what is mindfulness now that's being taught
Yeah.
uh, is calming down
Mm.
because there's I look at the books as you scan the different kinds of books, like the authors that really make it big, the Wayne Dyer level people,
Mm.
uh, is they are teaching that whatever you're feeling is turning into what becomes a disease.
hmm
And what is it? Now 1 out of 5 Americans has cancer, right? So what is cancer? It is an idea that goes out and goes in from out of your energy body into your physical body and creates a disease. And it takes a lot of time to do that. But what they're all teaching is you need to be able to release and letting go and those kinds of ideas.
Yeah.
You need to get out of that energy. You need to stop holding on to it. But when you're really not aware, you don't know what you're holding on to.
Yeah.
You don't know what's there. It's just the idea that some people are very aware and some
Mm.
people are very awake and some people are very alert. And those people are ready to take on these ideas much more quickly. I see this in my course, The Environment Changer, because I'm talking to people that are coming into the course for the first time, and they're stepping into this big awareness system that I built, and all the ideas that are in here are all built on your level of awareness. So I've had people who are completely unaware. They have never read any books. They've never read any self-improvement. They've never learned about anything. They've not gone to any talks or anything. And so their level of awareness is very low. And so they're very body-based. They're all tied up in the way I think or the way I feel, the way somebody treats me, the way I react to them. They're not even aware of, well, what if it's happening to me? What is this happening to me? I just knew this person was mean to me and now I feel this way. That's all I know. So that's a very low level of awareness.
Yeah.
The
I
other
think
thing is spiritual things.
hmm
People who grow up with no spiritual foundation, very hard for them to learn these things. I'm thinking of one woman who grew up with no religion at all. There's she had no awareness, and when she was given no awareness of any spirituality. Because when you don't have spirituality, you're not connected to energy. And now you don't have any idea that energy is a thing that can actually affect you, take you to your right mind. You don't even know how to make that connection. So you have to go step by step. You got to take baby steps to step up the ladder from where you are. And wherever you are, it doesn't matter where you are, you're in the right place.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about the environment changer. Is that something, I'm guessing it's on your website? Is that pretty good
Yeah,
estimation?
so you can save this marriage.com is the place where the program is. And then there is larrybilotta.com, and that's also where the program is.
So the environment
Get these
changer, is
items.
that like several lessons, or is that
Yeah,
something you
it's
do on video, or how does it
so
work?
it's a video course.
hmm
It's 7 modules. What the 7 modules are doing is taking you through these ideas of moving into your right mind. And so that course is got a home study version, which is the self-study of the course itself,
hmm
and then a live course, which takes the same course and then adds 2 live elements to it. And so I've been doing a Wednesday call every week for the last 15 years. And what I do on this call every week is because people need that kind of support. They need somebody to talk to them about where they are, what they're feeling, what's going on, what does it mean? All that stuff has to happen, and you need it to get readjusted every week because you're moving, you're changing all the time. So
So,
that's the environment change. You're changing the environment of your mind. That's what it's based on.
okay. Okay. And it's just like we've talked about here that things are so much different now than they were 10 or 15 years ago because it's
Good.
made it more accessible. And I say it being what we're doing at this burning moment is we're doing this as video call.
Yeah.
And, do you remember science fiction, Larry? You go back 20, 25 years ago and you had this stuff where where somebody was talking to somebody else and they had their TV screen in front of them and you're going, wow, where'd that ever go? Where did that ever come from? Well, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations. Not, we can do it like this, or we can even do it on our cell phone. It doesn't matter how we do it, but it's doable. And it
That's right.
makes it so convenient to be able to help people like that. And that's where I'm going with that concept to someone. It's saying, I really am a stayer. I really do feel committed. I really am communicating, and we are communicating, but there's just something missing, and we need a little extra help. So they can reach out to you online and they can make this happen.
Yes. But so what I do is before people get into the course, I talk to them personally.
hmm
And the reason I talk to them personally is because I want to find out where they are on the scale.
Excellent.
Because if I don't find out where they are, I don't know who I'm talking to. Like, like, don't tell me you're 50 problems. I need to know where you were born.
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
need to know that. Because if I
So
don't know
it's
that, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah. So it's not just a matter of oh, I want to do that. I'm going to go click on it and I'll just get that course. No,
Yeah.
you need to talk with Larry to find
Yeah.
out where you are. That's that one piece that can miss in today's technology.
So
Believe me. And
here's
you see it too.
here's a great example. I'm talking to a guy who's an 8. Okay.
hmm
I get his story. He's an 8 on the scale, right?
hmm
A purpose kid.
Hmm.
And then I find out that his wife is an 8. I said, I have not found somebody who is an 8 married to an 8 in years. Years. Do you know how good that is that you're an 8 married to an 8? That's amazing. I gave him all this encouragement because I never talked to 8s married to an 8.
And where did
And
they go from there?
they were just going through a very difficult time in their life with situations, and they really could easily get back to where they want to be. Because an
Hmm.
8 married to an 8, they're both pretty resilient. They've got values that really matter and that will help them.
Hmm.
And so they just got to get through this misunderstanding. And if he turns into a creator, he can do that. And he
Hmm.
can do that very easily. And so he started to feel very encouraged that he found out he was an 8 married to an 8.
Without getting too far into detail, I'm curious about how old was this person?
Oh, this is guy like 38 years old, 39.
Okay, all right. Because I was wondering if they were any older than that, because the other piece that I was going to go to is they're both 8s, and the, we also may recall that I don't know if these families are still around. You might be able to answer that question, but do you remember in culture? Oh, well, we don't talk to others about our problems.
Yes.
Is that
I,
is that still around? You know,
yes, that is. That's called the white picket fence.
oh,
The white
go
picket
on.
fence, right? The white picket fence is we have a perfect picture house. The white picket fence is the symbol of a perfect house.
Hmm.
And so we don't share our family problems with anybody, ever tell anybody what's going on behind the closed doors of this house. This is our house surrounded by a white picket fence, and to everybody in church, everybody in school, everybody in all these public places, everything's perfect. And so you don't ever tell anybody how your father treats you. You don't ever tell anybody how your mother treats you. So that's a secret. And so now that's kind of a secret because we got the white picket fence. And every once in a while I run into those people who are white picket fence people.
Where are they usually in the number sequence?
Um, they're usually if they're white picket fence, they're actually chaos kids, but they publish themselves as purpose kids
Okay.
because
So
they're
they
taught to speak well of mother and father.
So they're not the ones that are the 10 through the 8. They're
No,
they're more like the 4 to 1 or 4 to 0.
see, but if this white picket fence is bad behind closed doors, that person might have been a 3, but they were taught that you're an 8.
Hmm.
So now the person's telling the story that I've got a great family and they love me so much and it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But my father abused me emotionally,
Yep.
right? And I hid that,
Hmm.
right? So now we got 2 numbers. We got an 8 published and we got the secret 4 or 3.
Okay. Now we're
Now we
getting
got 2
in.
locations. Now we
Yeah.
got 2 locations.
And that must be a challenge if you've got more than one number involved.
Yeah, more than one number it's more complicated because I have the truth and a hidden story. And
Hmm.
I got it. This person is telling one story, but now secretly it's another story.
Is something like that going to come out in the course, or is that something that's going to come out, do you suppose, more likely as you initially are talking with this person?
Um, when I talk to somebody and they're giving me the story that I asked for about their childhood, I can see the honesty. I feel the honesty that they're talking about.
Okay.
And if I don't feel that honesty, I can feel it. And now I get the feeling of a white picket fence. Like,
Okay.
oh, this is a published story. Like either he's telling it or she's telling it. The published story is the story I want the public to know. That's how the parents told it. We
Okay.
don't talk, just like that story you're telling. Like this, you don't tell anybody what's going on
And
in
I,
our house.
And I bring that up because I don't want people to be discouraged, as far as or apprehensive about opening themselves up to situations like this, because if there was a rat, that would be a real rat to
Yes.
me.
Yeah,
Uh,
because there's 2 stories now. There's a
uh-huh.
public story and a private story.
Yeah. And you wonder how many stories are out there nowadays like that because of the culture that we live in and because going back to the thing of the virtual life that we have, I'm all smiles and I'm all happy, and really behind me is another story entirely. And you just
Yeah,
don't know that.
well, when you go to the 1950s television,
Yes.
uh, that that actually was an environment where you can get two stories. You can get a Leave It to Beaver picture, which is the story we want to tell, and then you can have a secret picture, which is like Shameless, the television show, right? Which is a horribly dysfunctional. But when Ricky Nelson was on television with Ozzie and Harriet, that was a world that was supposed to be like a life with no problems.
Right.
Because when people thought, well, is that what families are like?
But not in
they
real
are.
life.
Yes, that is how families are like when they have a script.
Yeah, that is. That's it. It's a scripted life.
A scripted life, yeah.
And it's superficial. It's difficult. I could see that be really difficult to work with. And if you begin to identify that as it presents itself, but if somebody's listening to this and they wonder, geez, am I in that part
I'm
of,
in a chaos zone.
yeah.
Because when you're told the story that your parents are wonderful, and that we tell the world that our parents are wonderful, then that's the story that we tell. Our parents are wonderful. But like in my situation, my father was a gambler, and my mother was an alcoholic, and that's the secret story. But the public story is that my mother and father were really great together, like an ideal couple. But privately, she would go off to drink and he would go off to gamble. Right?
And how many stories do we hear that come up on the news and people don't understand, why did this terrible thing take place inside this home? Because they were the perfect family. They lived in the perfect neighborhood. But behind those doors, behind that picket fence, was a monster.
Yes, that's right. Exactly what the story is. And so the job of getting out there to realize that a midlife crisis is the childhood coming for you at between 35 and 45. That's the peak of the time. 35 and 45 is when you start to realize the 20s are gone, and I'm getting older, and now I realize I'm getting older, and now these messages are stronger. They're actually getting stronger in me. And so if I have chaos in me and they're getting stronger, how am I going to do this? I can't fight them forever. Something's going to snap. And when they snap, I don't want to be here for that. So that's the job of getting from the wrong mind to the right mind, and undoing the ego, which is what ultimately we're trying to find. We're all trying to find some way to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because ego has never given us any good ideas.
I'm glad you've mentioned that a couple of times already. And it's so true. I've often said that, to me, my estimation of ego is given to us for one reason and one reason only. That's to protect our physical body. Outside of that, it's no good.
Yes, it's no good.
It's the one that keeps us from running in front of the freight train or the semi-tractor trailer. That's what it's there for. If you take it beyond that, it's a problem. It can be a real problem for you.
So we're getting into the world of relationships, and that's the greatest thing we could do, is get into a relationship. Because when you're in a relationship, you have a mirror, and a mirror will mirror back whatever is going out of you. Those 7 energies are going out. You don't know they're going out because you can't steer them, you can't monitor them, you can't turn them on or off. They're just going out all the time. And the mirror, the person who's your intimate partner, will mirror it back to you. So if you're a man, the woman you marry is going to mirror it back to you. If you're a woman, the man is going to mirror it back to you. And when it gets mirrored back, you make me really unhappy. Because what is being mirrored back? Well, if it's the case that you've got a very strong ego that's very manipulative and all the things that are in the childhood, all those things are going out, hidden in the mirror, and coming back to you. And you don't like it because, by the way, nobody wants to be your mirror. Nobody wants to be your mirror. I don't want to be a person who's got to give you back what you're sending out. I don't want to do that because I don't want to be in that job of sending back what's being sent out. So nobody wants to be your mirror. So they don't want to be in that job. But what they really like is that if they didn't get the ugliness of your childhood, if the ugliness of your childhood did not go out and hit the mirror would be in such a distraught state. And that's really what the intimate partner is. The intimate partner is the person that says, hey, I'm close to you. I trust you. I'm your closest person. And I don't want to give back what I'm getting. Like an impatient person, for example. The impatience goes out, hits the mirror, comes back as impatience. It could become all kinds of distorted ways, impatience. Or anger can go out and hit the mirror, comes back as anger. Because that's what a mirror is. It's a emotion goes out and hits the mirror, and the mirror sends it back as behavior. And that's how we can see it. We can see it because the mirror is here to show it to us. And that's a really great thing.
Yeah. So let's reiterate once again. We have the two ways that people can reach out to you. I know that one is through your website, and the other one, is through, you said, through the course that you offer?
Yes. So You Can Save This Marriage is where you can see that. YouCanSaveThisMarriage.com.
YouCanSaveThisMarriage.com.
Yeah. And the other one is LarryBilotta.com.
Okay. So I always like to ask the question, what does Larry do to create a better life for himself?
So the ability to create a better life is any time that I do anything to undo my own ego, the happier I get. And any activity of undoing is good for me. So, for instance, one of the things that I undo the ego with is forgiveness. That's a great thing to undo the ego, because the ego doesn't actually talk about forgiveness. And if it does, it's in a manipulative way. So I'm forgiving you because I'm pardoning you, or whatever the version is. But undoing the ego is really good when you have forgiveness at work. And calming yourself is a really good thing. That's why I was talking about mindfulness. Meditation really is just the idea of slowing down. And when you can slow down, boy, I think about the average day. The average day is like built for interruptions. It's built to not meditate. It's built to not pray. It's built to not slow down. And that's because the ego never shuts up. It's in your mind. It's always pounding you with stimulation of some kind. It's playing the song of the minute, some wild, crazy song from the 30s or whatever, something. It's always doing something, and it's always trying to keep you anchored in the body. And so when you're anchored in the body, you're not going to the mind, because the ego wants you to be mindless. And so it's always trying to keep you in the body. And that's the only thing it wants you to do. So the more you can move to the mind and out of the body, the better off you are. And so I'm always trying to do those things personally. I'm trying to get out of the body and into the mind. And that's one of the reasons why I teach this course, because when you teach it, you have to live it. You can't not live it and teach it, because then you're a hypocrite.
Well, Larry Bilotta, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'd really like your thoughts that you have, and working with the chaos kid factor and creating better relationships with each other just by having that good bit of communication and really feel committed to what you want to do and what you want to be. So, Larry, thanks so much for being a guest today.
Kevin, thank you for what you do and staying with it for so long. I love it.
Thank you, Larry, for sharing some insights and direction for pathways to happiness. You can connect with Larry Bilotta through his website, LarryBilotta.com. That's LarryBilotta.com. Or through his class portal, YouCanSaveThisMarriage.com. That's YouCanSaveThisMarriage.com. There are links in the show notes to this as well. If you're seeking insights and advice on how to create a better life for yourself over and above the podcast, I do offer free Toward a Better Life mentoring sessions. If you'd like the details on this, please write to me, Kevin@towardabetterlife.com. Join me next time on our program as I welcome Duncan Brown. Duncan explains alcohol is a problem that isn't talked about. Now, we're not talking alcoholism, but the overindulgence of alcohol. And other indulgences for that matter, and it's not just about alcohol. Tune in for this next episode where Duncan Brown and I discuss a balancing life of indulgences. If Please like, follow, subscribe to Toward a Better Life on the podcast platform of your choice. And if you think about it, please leave a review. I'd appreciate that. On another note, embark on your solo adventures with confidence and camaraderie. Join the Wandering Individuals Network RV Club today for the ultimate journey tailored to the independent traveler. Check them out at www.winsrvclub.com. If you've got questions or if you'd like to be my guest, please write to me, kevin@towardabetterlife.com. That's kevin@towardabetterlife.com. Until next time, do enjoy your journey toward a better life.